We're joined via Zoom by the Project Director of Democracy Project and Fellow from the Ghana Center for Democratic Development, Dr. John Osae Kwapong, on this development that we're seeing in the House, that's Parliament House. Doc, thank you so much for your time. Good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon to you as well.
Doc, thank you. So we've just played a few videos from Parliament House where we've seen the minority protesting outside, cladded in black and red bands, and they have obviously also been avoided in entering the chamber by the Speaker of Parliament because, by the way they're dressed, is against the standing orders, and that is a development stemming from chaos from the vetting committee and its following developments as well. Doc, what do you make of all this that's happening? Is the minority being responsible enough?
You know, it's a little worrying that the vetting process is now becoming, or at least we are beginning to see a lot of these developments. It was unfortunate, the chaos that erupted. For me, I thought that the disagreement over whether the vetting should continue or should be adjourned to the next day was a simple matter that could have been resolved among the committee, or at least among the leadership of the committee, right? The chair and on the majority side and the ranking member on the minority side, I believe could have had a quick tete-a-tete, worked out any differences, and agreed on the way to proceed. I also find it quite baffling that for how often these these MPs describe each other as my good brother, my good sister, my good friend, that in such moments they are unable to tap into reservoir of goodwill and resolve some of these differences that shouldn't degenerate into some of these aftermath effects that we are starting to see. I'm just hoping that whatever the persistent issues are, that they can be resolved for the sake of not even just the MPs, but for Parliament itself as an institution. Because if you look at the most recent Afrobarometer from last year, 2024, the perceptions of the public around the institution of Parliament is not the best. And for me, some of these things even goes to further sort of create or deepens some of the negative perceptions that Ghanaians hold of Parliament as an institution. And I just hope that the MPs would be mindful as some of these disagreements continue to stretch.
So to be more specific, Doc, what should we be mindful about? At the vetting level, vetting activities are continuing. It travels into deep into the night, and it says 10 p.m., 11 p.m. Chairman says, I'm continuing with the activity. The minority says, no, we cannot continue because we're tired. And so then decides to begin to destroy state properties because of their disagreement. Are we not supposed to address the specific development? Because if you want to Giorgio, there's a way to go about it. Here today, by standing orders, you don't come into the house by some dress code according to the standing orders. You decide to flout the standing orders because you're unhappy about something. Is this not a clear sign of crybabies who behave in the house because they want breast milk, they begin to cry to their mothers?
I like the analogy you just used, but you're correct. There is a way of addressing grievances. So even if you go back to the vetting committee, right, let's say it's 9 p.m., it's 10 p.m., one side says, let's continue. Another side says, it's too late, let's adjourn. For me, then, it boils down to the rules that govern how vetting should proceed. If whatever rules are in place or not are too vague, or whatever guidelines are in place are not working after, let's say, vetting 6, 7, 8 nominees, for me, it is a simple, maybe it's not as simple because I'm looking at it from the outside, but I believe that it is a simple matter of the leadership coming together and saying, okay, we've vetted 6, 8 nominees. We've realized that we can spend hours on one, but only a couple of minutes on another. we've realized that it's extending too late. Can we come up with some reasonable guidelines that says, okay, we'll do every nominee within a space of maybe 4 or 5 hours. These are some of the parameters around questions, follow-ups, etc., etc. I don't think this is too difficult a task to ask of our members of parliament to try and come up with some agreement around these things, so that when it is 9 p.m. and one side says, I'm tired, or we are tired, let's adjourn, we can simply go back to the guidelines and say, oh, look, we agreed that once it's 8 p.m., it's been a long day, all vetting ends to be continued the following day. Or maybe it's been 5 hours, we can now excuse the nominee. If you want the nominee to come back the next day, what are some of the rules that would guide you? That, for me, is how you resolve this. On the question of showing up in Parliament, in violation of what the standing orders say about the dress code, surely you cannot flout the dress code that Parliament as an institution, which includes you, these members of Parliament, have agreed to abide by. So it is only right that that access is not granted, right? You can still go to the floor and express your grievances, whilst at the same time respecting and not flouting the standing orders. We always say that we want strong institutions and that strong institutions are critical to good governance. Well, one of the ways you build strong institutions is respecting the rules of that institution, regardless of how aggrieved you feel about happenings in the institution. At the same time, there are ways of communicating those grievances, and I hope that those ways are the ones that will be explored to do that, and not ones that violate your own standing orders, because it only goes a long way to weaken the institution that you are part of.
Right.